أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير آمين يا رب العالمين.
In this lecture, we will study creating negation in Jumla Ismiya or creating a negative Jumla Ismiya. Furthermore, we will study creating emphasis in a negative Jumla Ismiya. We will return to our example of Zaidun Salihun, which means Zaid is pious. Please note that Zaid is pious is an example of a positive sentence. Zaidun Salihun is a positive Jumla Ismiya. Now, what if we want to say the opposite of Zaid is pious? What if we want to say Zaid is not pious? Inshallah, in this lecture, we will study how to say Zaid is not pious and create a negative Jumla Ismiya. In order to negate Zaidun Salihun or to say Zaid is not pious, we will need to do the following. We will need to take two steps. In the first step, we will take Zaidun Salihun, which is a positive Jumla Ismiya, and we will introduce ma at the beginning of Zaidun Salihun. So we will take the positive Jumla Ismiya Zaidun Salihun, put imaginary brackets around it, introduce ma at the beginning of Zaidun Salihun. In the next step, we will keep ma where it is. We will keep Zaidun the way it is. And for Salihun, we will convert it into Salihan. Salihun was the khabar. And in this case, Salihun is being converted into Salihan because of the presence of ma. So we are already noticing that ma is making the Jumla Ismiya negative, but it is also changing the status or the i'rab of the khabar from marfu to mansub. Zaidun Salihun means Zaid is pious. Ma Zaidun Salihan means Zaid is not pious. Please note that ma is making the khabar mansub. This is somewhat similar to the example of inna. We studied that inna was used to add emphasis to a positive Jumla Ismiya. Inna would come at the beginning of Jumla Ismiya and it would make the mubtada mansub. But in the case of ma is used to create a negative Jumla Ismiya and it will make the khabar mansub. Please also note that the terminology for this ma is ma al-hijaziyah. It is written as follows, and the origin of the terminology comes from the fact that this ma was used by the tribes of the Hijaz. The Hijaz is the majority of the western part of modern-day Saudi Arabia, and it includes the cities of Makkah and Medina. Please also note that grammatically, Zaidun will now be called the ism of ma or ma's ism. And grammatically, Salihan will be called the khabar of ma or ma's khabar. Again, this is similar to inna, where the mubtada was no longer called mubtada, but it was called inna's ism or the ism of inna. And the khabar was no longer called khabar, and grammatically we called it the khabar of inna or inna's khabar. Similarly, in this case, because of ma, the mubtada will be called the ism of ma or ma's ism, and the khabar will be called khabar of ma or ma's khabar. Let us look at an example of the use of ma from the Holy Quran. We will look at Surah Yusuf, Surah number 12, Ayah 31. In this ayah, it is written, "So, when she heard of their taunting comments, She extended an invitation to them and arranged for them a comfortable place, and gave everyone a knife, and said to Yusuf, "Come out to them." So when they saw him, they found him great, and were so stunned that they cut their hands and said, "O God, he is no human being. He is but a noble angel." He is no human being. This is referring to the section of the ayah, Ma haza basharan. We have ma followed by haza and then basharan, which is mansoob. Please note that haza is the ism of ma or ma's ism. Basharan is the khabar of ma or ma's khabar. The presence of ma is making the khabar mansoob, and ma is creating negation in this jumla, or it is creating a negative jumla ismiya, which can be translated as he is no human being. Let us do some practice of the use of ma to make jumla ismiya negative. Al-mu'minu kazibun. In this jumla, al-mu'minu is mubtada, kazibun is khabar. If we add ma to al-mu'minu kazibun, we will get mal-mu'minu kaziban. We added ma at the beginning and we have mal-mu'minu kaziban. The khabar is being converted from marfu to mansoob. Please also recall that a mansoob ism that has double zabar on it, the way we will write it is we will add an alif towards the end. Al-mu'minani kazibani. Please focus on the ani ending sound. Ani ending sound indicates dual and rafa status. Mal mu'minani kazibaini. Kazibani becomes kazibaini. Ani, aini. Ani ending sound indicates rafa status. Aini ending sound indicates nasab and jar status. Al-mu'minani kazibani. Mal-mu'minani kazibaini. Al-mu'minani is mubtada and it stays as al-mu'minani here because ma is not going to change the status of mubtada. The two believers are not liars. Please also note that aini ending sound indicates nasab and jar status, but in this case we know that kazibaini is indicating nasab status because ma will make the khabar mansoob. Al-mu'minuna kazibuna. Mal-mu'minuna kazibina. Kazibuna is becoming kazibina. Una ending sound indicates rafa status. Ina ending sound indicates nasab and jar status. In the case of kazibina, it is indicating nasab status because ma will make the khabar mansoob. The believers are not liars, and the meaning of not is coming from the presence of ma, which is making this jumla ismiya negative. Now let us look at the feminine examples. Al-mu'minatu kazibatun. Mal-mu'minatu kazibatan. The female believer is not a liar. Please note that as compared to kaziban, where we are adding an alif at the end of the mansoob ism, in the case of kazibatan, we are not adding an alif because the presence of golta is an exception to this rule. In this case, we do not have to add an alif at the end of a mansoob ism that has double zabar on it. Al-mu'minatani kazibatani. Note the ani ending sound. Mal mu'minatani kazibataini. Ani, aini. The two feminine believers are not liars. Al mu'minatu kazibatun. Mal mu'minatu kazibatin. Atun, atin. We studied that atun and atin ending sounds are used for feminine non-broken plural asma. Atun indicates rafa status. Atin indicates nasab and jar status. In this case, kazibatin is indicating nasab status or mansoob form of ism because of the presence of ma. The female believers, referring to plural, are not liars. Now we will study how to create emphasis in a negative jumla ismiya. We have the example of Ma Zaidun Salihan. Zaid is not pious. Please note that there is no emphasis in this jumla ismiya. We are simply saying Ma Zaidun Salihan. Zaid is not pious. Please recall that in the case of a positive jumla ismiya, we used inna and lam ta'kid or the lam of emphasis to create emphasis in jumla ismiya. In that case, we had the example of Zaidun Salihun and we added inna and lam ta'kid to create a jumla like inna Zaidan la Salihun. To create emphasis in a negative jumla ismiya, we need to add ba harf jar to the khabar of the negative jumla ismiya. Let us study some examples of how to do this. Now we will study how to add emphasis to a negative jumla ismiya. We have the example of Zaidun Salihun. Zaid is pious. This is a positive jumla ismiya. We made this jumla ismiya negative by adding ma at the beginning, and now we have ma Zaidun Salihan. Zaid is not pious. Please note that ma Zaidun Salihan has no emphasis in it. In order to add emphasis to ma Zaidun Salihan, we need to add ba harf jar to the khabar, and we will get the result of ma Zaidun biswalihin. Please recall that harf jar will make the ism following it majroor. So since we are adding ba harf jar to salihan, we get biswalihin. The final result is ma Zaidun biswalihin. Adding ba harf jar to the khabar of the negative jumla ismiya creates emphasis. Please also note that the meaning of ba harf jar will not be used in the translation of the negative jumla ismiya. We studied that the meaning of ba harf jar is typically with, but we will not be including that meaning in the overall translation of this jumla ismiya. The reason that we are including ba harf jar in this jumla ismiya is only to create emphasis in the negative jumla ismiya. The possible translations of ma Zaidun biswalihin can be Zaid is absolutely not pious. Zaid is not at all pious. Zaid is definitely not pious. So we had ma Zaidun Salihan, which meant Zaid is not pious, and we added ba harf jar to ma Zaidun Salihan to create emphasis, and we got ma Zaidun biswalihin. Zaid is absolutely not pious. Zaid is not at all pious. Zaid is definitely not pious. Now we will practice how to create emphasis in a negative jumla ismiya. Al-mu'minu kazibun. Mal mu'minu kaziban. The believer is not a liar. If we want to add emphasis to mal mu'minu kaziban, we will add ba harf jar to the khabar and we will have mal mu'minu bi kazibin. Kaziban is now kazibin because of ba harf jar. Khabar in this case is mansoob because of ma. Khabar in this case is majroor because of the addition of ba harf jar. The believer is not a liar. The believer is absolutely not a liar. Al-mu'minani kazibani. Please focus on the ani ending sound. Mal mu'minani kazibaini. The two believers are not liars. Mal mu'minani bikazibaini. The two believers are definitely not liars. We have kazibaini with the aini ending sound and we have bikazibaini with the aini ending sound. Ani ending sound indicates rafa status. Aini ending sound indicates nasab or jar status. In the case of kazibaini, it is mansoob because of the presence of ma, and in the case of bikazibaini, it is majroor because of the ba harf jar. Al-mu'minuna kazibuna. Mal-mu'minuna kazibina. Una, ina. The believers are not liars. With emphasis, we will get mal-mu'minuna bikazibina. The believers are not at all liars. In the case of kazibina, it is mansoob. In the case of bikazibina, it is majroor. Al-mu'minatu kazibatun. Mal-mu'minatu kazibatan. The female believer is not a liar. With emphasis, we will have mal-mu'minatu bikazibatin. The female believer is absolutely not a liar. Al-mu'minatani kazibatani. Mal-mu'minatani kazibataini. The two believers that are feminine are not liars. Mal-mu'minatani bikazibataini. The two believers that are feminine are definitely not liars. Al-mu'minatu kazibatun. Please note the atun ending sound. Mal-mu'minatu kazibatin. Atun, atin. The female believers are not liars. Kazibatin is mansoob because of the effect of ma. With emphasis, we will get mal-mu'minatu bikazibatin. Here, although we still have the atin ending sound, bikazibatin is majroor because of the presence of ba harf jar. The female believers are not at all liars. Let us look at the following examples. Hum mu'minuna. They are believers. This is a positive jumla ismiya. The mubtada is hum, mu'minuna is khabar. If we want to make this a negative jumla ismiya, we will introduce ma and we will have ma hum mu'minina. Mu'minuna becomes mu'minina and the translation will be they are not believers. And if we want to add emphasis to ma hum mu'minina, we will add ba harf jar to the khabar and we will get ma hum bi mu'minina. They are definitely not believers. And we see an example of this in the Holy Quran. Surah number 2, ayah number 8, we see وَمَا هُمْ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. And a translation of the ayah is as follows. Some people say, we believe in God and the last day, when really they do not believe. And another translation is, there are some who say, we believe in Allah and in the last day, while in fact they do not believe. So in this ayah, emphasis in the negative Jumla Ismiya is being created because of the addition of ba harf jar to the khabar.
Let us study some examples from Surah number 68, ayahs 1 to 4. In these ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun. Ma anta bi ni'mati rabbika bi majnoon. Wa inna laka la ajran ghayra mamnoon. Wa innaka la'ala khuluqin azim. Noon, by the pen and what the scribes write. You are not, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, by the favor of your Lord, Majnoon. In this ayah, please note the use of ma to create negation, and then furthermore the use of ba harf jar to create emphasis in the negation. And you will definitely have a reward that will never end. And you are surely on an excellent standard of character. In this ayah, please note the use of inna and lam ta'kid. Inna is used at the beginning and inna is used to create emphasis in this jumla. Further in the ayah, we see the use of lam ta'kid or the lam of emphasis to create additional emphasis. Please also note that the ism that follows inna is mansoob. Wa innaka. As we recall, ka is an attached personal pronoun that comes from the chart of majroor or mansoob personal pronouns.
Let us do some practice and try to translate the following into Arabic. The boy is not hardworking. Here we see that this is a negative sentence because of not, and also there is no emphasis in this negative sentence. In Arabic, we will say Mal waladu mujtahidan. Here, the khabar of ma is mansoob. The boy is certainly not hardworking. Now we see that we have a negative sentence that has emphasis in it. And in Arabic, we will say Mal waladu bimujtahidin. We are adding emphasis through ba harf jar, and now the khabar of ma is majroor because of the ba harf jar. They are definitely not believers. Once again, we have a negative sentence with emphasis. Ma hum bimu'minina. The khabar of ma is majroor here. The two girls are not truthful. This is a negative sentence without emphasis. Mal bintani sadiqataini. Ani, aini. And the khabar of ma is mansoob because of the presence of ma. The boys are not pious. Mal awladu salihina. The khabar of ma here is mansoob. There is no emphasis in the boys are not pious.
You are certainly not Majnoon.
In this case, we see emphasis being added to this negative sentence. Ma anta bimajnoonin. The khabar of ma in this case is majroor. The women are not liars. Man nisa'u kazibatin. The khabar of ma here is mansoob. The female students are not present. Mattalibatu haziratin. The khabar of ma is mansoob. They are not hypocrites. Ma hum munafiqina. The khabar of ma here is mansoob. We will look at another two examples from the Holy Quran. The first example is from Surah number 69, ayah number 41. And at the beginning, we see, وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ. It is translated as, and it is not the word of a poet. Little do you believe. If we focus on this section of the ayah, we see the use of ma, and in the translation, we can clearly see that ma is creating negation, and it is not the word of a poet. Please also pay attention to the khabar. بِقَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ. Please note the use of ba harf jar to create emphasis in the negation. Please also note that قَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ is showing us the mudaf ilay combination. Qawli is mudaf. It meets criteria for mudaf. There is no al and there is no tanween. Qawli is majroor because of the presence of ba harf jar. Sha'irin needs to be majroor because it is mudaf ilay. And we know that the status of mudaf will determine the status of the murakkab izafi. Our next example is from Surah number 2, ayah number 74. Towards the end of the ayah, we see وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ. This section can be translated as, and Allah is never unaware of what you do. Please note that ma in this case is also creating negation, and the use of ba harf jar is creating emphasis in that negation. With the use of ba harf jar, we have emphasis in the negation, and we get a possible translation of, and Allah is never unaware. Please also note that ghafilin is majroor because of the presence of ba harf jar.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.